Today we're theorizing what a brand new class of monsters could be, and these are interdimensional monsters coming from different dimensions inside of the monster world. So let's look into what exactly I mean today. My thinking monsters, it has such a rich history that I believe classes are always at their best when we delve into that history, and this class, it strives to do just that. Back in time, before Magical Nexus came, we speculated where could the Magical Island Titans have come from, and since then we have now been confirmed with Magical Nexus that they come from the outer space of the monster world, the Beyond. But still, going back to my theories before, you guys might remember there are connections to be made to these titans that they come from different dimensions. For example, if we're going over to Light Island's bio, it literally suggests that it comes from the Prism Gate realm, and then you have Whiz Bang, and then you're going over to Psychic Island, and you've got the Thumpies verse, and it references that with Bonkers and Rare Bonkers, so it's quite evident here that there is something more going on, okay? I always have wondered how exactly are they going to tie up this connection, and I believe the best way that we could go about implementing this kind of a connection in-game is by introducing a brand new class of monsters. So each Magical Island would have a brand new unique monster tied to that specific dimension with its own element, and these I am calling Migrators. They come from the individual dimensions themselves, so each one, it would offer fresh lore about the Titans, their travels, their connections towards these dimensions, and a bit of backstory behind them, because we do be needing a bit of that. And we would have a connection towards all of these cool, awesome dimensions. So yes, this class will be the bomb. So before we go over my ideas towards Rift Island, yes, we have to go there. I am going to be putting these on Migrators on Rift Island, and I actually have more ideas for more Migrators. But first of all, let's go over the ideas that I have for the Magical Islands. So first of all, let's start off with Light Island's Migrator. Light Island's Migrator, as we've been over, is tied towards the Prism Gate realm, as referenced by Phosphor and also Whiz Bang. Now, the Prism Gate, of course, we need to talk about the realm itself, has somewhat of a mind of its own. So Light Island's Migrator that I am calling Shadonica, that comes from the Prism Gate, is the monster that controls the Prism Gate. All of those prismatic mutations and all those appearances inside of Dawn of Fire, we have Shadonica to thank for that. Shadonica isn't meant to exist. It is literally the Prism Gate itself. It controls it, right? But here it is, a creature completely made of the Prism Gate's aura, coming down its spines along its back. Unable to create sound due to it coming from the silent Prism Gate realm, which is in complete silence. It has to use the prism crystals in order to make it sound, and that is also why you fed them into the Prism Gate all along, because greedy Shadonica was behind there with the claws and gathering them up, y'all. It made a deal with the monsters, give Shadonica the crystals, and it'll transform them into wonderful, colourful creatures, allowing them to harmonise inside the Prism Gate. However, when the Dawn of Fire started to come to a close, Shadonica, it got a bit lonely and desperate. These prism crystals and monsters that had been getting inside of itself, the monsters weren't really paying as much attention to it anymore. And you guys might know that the Prism Gate, it has been getting a bit more active recently. This is not by coincidence. Poor Shadonica, they didn't really have much of a choice in this situation, and they had to resort to, well, more drastic measures. Sucking the monsters in, literally hovering over them. The measures got a little bit more drastic. Things then got a little bit out of hand when the cataclysm therefore started happening, and Shadonica, well, it accidentally ate up, as it has been referenced at this point in many bios, it actually gobbled up all of the Outer Islands and the monsters on them. Lucky for them, they were saved from the cataclysm, but my goodness, Shadonica a bit too far. Now, Shadonica, though, now we've been over its backstory, I imagine that it would play the glass harmonica, and luckily for us today, we have a wonderful rendition of these sounds coming up, so make sure to watch till the end. I'll also put them in at the end. But the glass harmonica, back in Italy when I was adventuring around, I saw this wonderful woman, and she was hovering over glass speakers and making this really weird sound, and since then, I knew I had to have this kind of a weird sound, seeing as though we have Scups, who is literally from a water cup squishy toy sound. Well, I knew that we had to have something like this, some really crazy instrument inside of the game. And the glass harmonica is a really large glass-like container that is rotated around in order to produce a glass-like sound. I honestly don't know how to describe it, guys, but it's really awesome, and it fits that emotional, sad almost tone of Light Island. I feel like it would fit Shadonica quite well, especially considering it's making it sound from prism crystals, the like glass-like components, aren't they? But as for Shadonica's actual form, I picture it to be huge, a shadowy giant with 6 vibrating prism crystals going around it, and then when it makes its sounds, they can fade down in color, and then it can actually replenish them, because there's got to be a reason why it's been getting all these crystals all along out of one of the portals it opens up towards the prism realm. But I have asked Riles today to help me design my ideas and bring them to life. So here we have a representation of what Shadonica could look like. They've phrased them as some kind of a lizard with huge rift-like components spiraling all across the spine of this monster. Definitely a very ominous creature and makes you feel the Prism Gate vibes. Now though, we also have them playing, as I'm going to show you now the sound that I have asked TME to make just for this moment. So let's have a listen. So there you guys go. I cannot believe that sound. It sounds so emotional. It feels perfect. It is marvelous. Okay, we're having too many explosions. Let's move on to the Psychic Island Migrator now. The Psychic Island Migrator links towards the Thumpies verse, thanks to Bonkers, but we only know Thumpies to come from the Thumpies verse, and the Thumpies verse we know is quite small and compact. So how exactly does this work? Now, here's the lore behind it. For this Migrator, some of the Thumpies, they got bored of their small realm, as we're being on about, and they started to go off on adventures. For those of you who don't know, Thumpies actually possess dimensional leaping powers. When they jump and put enough force into it, it allows them to scatter across dimensions. It's been confirmed inside of their lore. And therefore, some of them actually decided to become nomadic wanderers, which I am now calling Nomies. Thanks to their exposure to the rift due to traveling all of these dimensions, the in-between the rift, it led towards the Nomies developing ethereal-like evolutions and technical enhancements to get across these travels. And also on their travels, perhaps the most notable thing, the Nomies, instead of their mushroom pads, they picked up these dimensional pads. So we have ones for the Grapefruit Grove, the Rift, the Jamalands, and the Mirror Dimension. Nomies warp through these dimensions and appear as 3 Thumpies variants on the Nomies creature. However, what I think would be awesome with this is the encapsulation of all the Thumpies, seeing as though I feel like we are running out of chances to do that. So I pictured that different Thumpies species could actually come through these portals, and we could see the dimensional jumping powers in action inside of their animation, allowing us to see 9 Thumpies variants all throughout its design. I feel like these Thumpies, they deserve a bit of spotlight, so let's go out there, man. Thumpies, they are percussion monsters to harness these feelings of the dimensional pads that I got across, this feeling of traversal, jungle, ethereal, hopeful tones. I feel like the steel tongue drum would be an awesome setup, especially to encapsulate still it being a percussion-like sided monster. And here we have Riles' design that they've come forward for that. So we have Cal, Boo, and Tawoo right at the top. Lots of ooh. Woo. And then we have these dimensional pads. So we have one for Grapefruit Grove, the Mirror Dimension, Jamalands, and Mirror Dimension, as I set out inside of my theories just there. And wonderful technical enhancements on top of all of these Thumpies. Overall, seeing the Thumpies come back in a much more alive setting, being an actual monster themselves, it would really excite me personally. I love this so much. And let's have a listen then now towards the sound behind these. So as you guys listen to that, not only did we have the steel tongue drum, but TME, who made the sound today, they literally shined through and they made these vocal sounds, which go back to the vocal sounds of thumpies, and I thought that was perfect. That was not my idea, but I love it so much. And then next up, we have our Faerie Island Migrator. Faerie Island's Migrator is tied towards Fingia. Now, Fingia, it's unconfirmed to be a connection towards it. However, the lively setting and aesthetic of fairies suits the Fling a Thing dimension so much that I think that that vibe totally nails it, and we need to have that one there. This one I have an interesting forethought for it. So inside of my headcanon, I have always figured that the floofiness decoration is tied towards the Fingia dimension. This isn't confirmed again, but the art style, it feels like it matches Fling a Thing the most out of all the MSM games. And then also, if you go back to the underground location inside of Fling a Thing, you see these ball creatures. It's as if this wasn't confirmation enough of the art style already, but these look exactly like the floofiness decoration. So it's always been my headcanon that these are these creatures now, and we need to bring them to life. So this monster, this Faerie Island Migrator, which I am calling Meloof, is the floofiness eggs hatched, and actually are a form of the underground critters. How cute. Meloof is my favorite one again. Serene like Faerie Island, Meloof harmonizes beautifully and is extremely floofy poofy. Each Meloof creature has a snout like the things of Fingia with big floofy bodies. They each have unique hairstyles and shapes coming from the floofiness eggs, and the colors of each Meloof, quite interestingly, because I had to think how we can tie this together, represent emotions. So for example, the green one is mischievous, blue is sad, yellow is happy, and then red, angry. Well, as far as angry can get in MSM. And of course, with this, we have Inside Out vibes. Inside Out, honestly, was a bit of a reference here, but I love them. They float in the air, they are lovable, floofy, and poofy. We can't forget the poofy. Things themselves. And here we have Riles' design for them. So here we can see the green one upside down. They did that by accident, and then I told them to leave it. I mean, definitely conveys the mischievous tone. We have the red one, feeling a bit angry there, as angry as we can get again. The blue one at the very top, a little bit more sad and melancholy, giving nightmare vibes, honestly. The yellow one at the bottom, happy, poofy, lovey. We love it. And of course, this ties towards the floofiness decoration. Again, I love this idea so much. But as for the sounds behind this, I obviously thought that this could be a vocal, I think. This is the most vocal-like material that we have, especially because, well, they've got suction mouths. Come on, we gotta do something here. We already have sculpts. Let's do something awesome with a vocal sound, I thought, with this one. So let's have a listen to TME sound to see what they came up with based off the ideas that I sent them. I am addicted to that sound. I love that sound so much. It is great. I love how they captured the harmonious tones of it behind that. But moving on to Bone Island now. Bone Island's Migrator, it links towards the cave crystal dimension. Again, not necessarily a confirmed one here, but the setting of the cave crystal teleporter definitely reminisces of the caves of Bone Island. Going back to the lore that we know behind Cave Crystal Island, though, in that dimension, I think it's quite important. So the cave crystal teleport, it brings up a monster called the Chronoriftus, and the Chronoriftus is later revealed as Nerve. Back on Mythical Island, it was revealed over there, a monster fanatically watching over the monster world. Now, what exactly does this have to do with our Migrator, though? The Migrator, I was thinking, seen as though Nerve has such an enhanced sense, it could be canonized that monsters from Cave Crystal Island have enhanced senses. So Bone Island's Migrator, Glausicle as I'm calling them, I like that name the most. just. No, maybe Meloof. I'm a big fan for Meloof. Taps into the oddity of sound perception. Its ears droop when they're idle, but then during its animations, Glausicle extends them dramatically, its ear strings. Think of them being like pipe cleaners that it grabs on hold of, a little bit like to Nerve's eye fibers that it manages to grasp. It grabs its ears and extends them, and then it uses its claws as it's extended one of its ears to pluck and play the elongated ear fibers that, again, are like pipe cleaners. Then it manages to tuck its ears back in, like to Nerve when it puts its eyes back in before it goes back into its idle animation. Glausicle too, let's go over its design a little bit here. So it's got those huge rabbit-like ears that I was mentioning, but a golem-like appearance again here. Paint all over it, face paint all through this design. It's definitely an aesthetic that was embodied by Nerve and definitely would carry through onto more Cave Crystal Island monsters. And as well, we've got to have a small, wide, Yeti-like appearance, I think, for this one to really fit that chilly vibe of both Cave Crystal Island and Bone Island. Perfect encapsulation, really, and lovely reference there. And the best part, though, oh boy! I love this instrument idea. Glausicle would play the slap bass guitar, perfectly matching Bone Island's upbeat, jazzy vibe. Bone Island guitar, yes please. We laying down the bob. Yeah! Let's have a look at Glausicle's design, though. So Glausicle, again, they've pictured them much more of a rabbit-like take. Not necessarily as much of a golem was what I was originally picturing for this one, what Riles came up with here. But really nice detailing of the facial features and exactly what we would expect from another Cave Crystal Island monster. Nerve definitely approves, yeah. We've got the general face paint encapsulated all throughout the body. Huge tummy pouch. Oh. And then they grab on hold of their ears during their animation. Perhaps not as extended as I was thinking again here, but so cute at the same time. Let's give a listen towards the sound idea that we have for the slap bass guitar though now. The idea of a guitar on Bone Island at all is so cool, man. But now, let's move on to Rift Island. We have much more dramatic measures to see to. So the dimensions tied to Rift Island, I think they bring across a lot of opportunities, and people are definitely going to be thinking, let's have another teleportation island. But forget the typical Thor elemental teleportation setup. We need to get creative for every dimension on this island. Rift Island, it takes place in between dimensions. We need to bring all the monsters across from all the dimensions and have individual migrators for that. So I believe that the dimensional monsters could honestly extend beyond the magical islands themselves. We could have other dimensions being great through growth for Amber Island. We already have the skin over there during Echoes of Eco. And then I was thinking the puppet realm. Ooh. For my Muppet Show. This would just be the best callback ever. Having it be done in this kind of a way where they can do anything with it and be just an oddball reference. Yes, please. This one would be perfect for Mythical Island. I was thinking perhaps the Jammerlands from Jammer Splash would be perfect on Fire Oasis, having a migrator on there. And having migrators too on islands that are unlikely to see future content like Amber, Mythical. Yes, please. And don't forget us in-game dimensions too. We have the Mirror Dimension, which we could have on Mirror Knot Island. I feel like that island, if you've not seen my theories for Mirror Knot Island, definitely go and watch this over here. But I feel like that island might be coming up our way very soon, so it would be awesome to see a Mirror Dimension exclusive monster there too. The Seam with Sugarbush Island, the Dreamscape Mythical Island, Pocket Dimension with Ethereal Island, Magical Sanctum, the Higher Plane Gold Island. I've already got one for Amber Island, but this brings us up to 12 possible migrator monsters already, and that's enough for an entire new class shop. But we've got to bring it up to the native 15 monsters that are usually on an island. So of course we need to have a monster first of all that's dedicated towards the rift itself. That's a dimension too, I guess. We've got to have one that's available right from the get-go, a Rift Migrator. Think of it like the Meebkin of the Rift. It's there automatically when you unlock the island. And then that would leave room for 2 more monsters, which could tease future lore locations. It's fucking even more theories. Hello! Potential new dimensions could include the Colossal's home dimension, the mysterious Stablo Majorico realm, opening up lots of opportunities for new lore here. But how exactly would Rift Island work then? So all of these Migrator ideas would connect towards Rift Island, and now we've established that we could have unique elements for each one, we could have unique monsters for each dimension. We need to go over how exactly this would work. With Rift Island being in the middle of all the dimensions, it is the perfect setup for it, and it's already encapsulated inside of the lore, so it's going to be a location we definitely are going to explore more in the future, and it just makes so much sense to have this class be here, a class like this. But with such rich lore and having such an established location, we need to do something new here, something new and exciting, I think, besides what we already know and love. So not just breeding I was thinking with this one, but I was thinking of having a mechanic called harmonizing. Rift Island, it would host all of the migrators from all the magical islands, but as well it would have others, and you're not going to bring them across like you do on usual islands. The Rift itself, it has unique lore. So we have the separating existence widget, also known as the SEW, that has been confirmed to be lost within it. This device, it is able to create gateways towards all of the dimensions, but it's unstable at the moment and malfunctioning. But it is inside of the Rift. Therefore, the SEW device needs to be stabilized inside of this gameplay to allow us to get the Migrator monsters to inhabit Rift Island itself. And what is the perfect stabilizer to do this, therefore? I believe it is the satellite structure. This, oh my goodness. The satellite structure is a scrap decoration that was intended to be the teleporter inside of Donify, and I feel like this would be the perfect chance to bring it back. It feels like it fits perfectly. It's designed to be a structure to be able to harmonize the SEW and allow us to obtain the Rift monsters. So in order to do this, let's go from a gameplay perspective. So let's go in game, let's pretend. We have the satellite structure and the SEW to one side. If I tap the satellite structure, I am able to harmonize the SEW. By clicking the SEW, I can click on a melody and then play a quick, yes, we don't want it to be cumbersome, a quick 5-second tune to really integrate and make us feel a nostalgic callback towards these dimensions, the individual themes from them. And then once I've played that, a bit like the Chinese and Korean version game, the SEW device will harmonize slightly towards that dimension and gain a percentage from it. So let's say I want to harmonize for Thingia. Let's go back to our satellite. I harmonize the SEW by clicking it here and play out the theme on the keyboard, and then a bit of a timer says I have to wait. We need waiting still. I have to wait until I can do it again, but based on my points, the SEW device has been harmonized towards that specific dimension a bit more. And I like to have prism gates where the percentage, you can do it beforehand and leave it to luck. You can get it to 100% still and get the monster 100%, but you can do it before, and there's always the off chance that you could get it early, man. So I feel like that would be an awesome throwback towards the prism gate mechanics too there, and also give us something really unique with this island. And then let's see, I played the game several more times, I speed it with diamonds, and then I harmonize the structure once more, and then it's ready. I can press harmonize and I will get 100%. This kind of a mechanic is so different to anything inside of the game that I feel like it's such a unique concept that I've come up with, and I feel like we need more concepts like this inside of the game, so I would totally be down for this, man. But now we've been over the mechanics, the monsters, what about the island itself? The island itself, it would be spectrally stunning. I think the best way to describe it would be psychedelic. Lots of colors and waves and that feeling of psychedelic. It would have spiraling portals all across it, showing us all of the separate dimensions, and really embody the fact that this is an in-between space, and show us maybe some future locations too for us to theorize about. Ooh. dimensional foliage too, from across all of the separate dimensions, maybe some amber from the Stabler Magirica here and there. And let's not forget that it's been ages since we've had a Colossal, so let's have Chronoriftus. Trapped in the rift before the dawn of fire, Chronoriftus has been a companion to Zaroe. While experimenting to stabilize its teleportation energies, Chronoriftus got trapped in the rift. Zaroe, it tried to save it. God bless it. But Zaroe's attempts, like the workshop, it was all for Chronoriftus to stabilize a portal, it just weren't enough. Trapped, but not asleep, because it was separate towards all realities, Chronoriftus has been actively working on retrieving the Migrator monsters to have some companions and ensuring that SEW, mostly, doesn't destabilize completely, hoping one day to reunite with its fellow Colossals. And man, imagine this, by reuniting all of these Migrators together on Rift Island, this class, it would be the bomb. New content, and overall a throwback towards the rich history behind the game. These new classes that I have no doubt we are going to be seeing soon, I feel like having an established connection towards the lore is so important at this point in my mind, because there's so much that we can draw back, and I hope that today I have given you a bit of a taste for what that could be. It's everything that we love about the monster world, and it could evolve in so many new directions. This honestly, it's the bomb. Kaboom!
Dum diddly dum 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 dum. 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 Dum diddly dum 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 dum.
yeah.